Assalamu alaikum everybody. Nahmadu wa nusalli ala Rasulil Kareem. We'll start with our, already rather resume with our present tense. And in the last class, we were doing yaquluna and taquluna. Yaquluna being attached to uh, the third person plural. Taqulun we know is second person plural. Antum taquluna and hum yaquluna, right? So we had a class on that. Now let's move on and have a few more examples of present tense, uh, but not for antum and hum, but for ana, which is I. So we know that the word anaitu, if any letter, any of the verb start from any of these letters, then it's a present tense. Alif, noon, yata, right? So remember that rule. To, what is that rule for? To know that the verb is present tense. So if it's starting from alif, noon, yata, we know that it's a present tense. Okay, so let's focus here. Ana aqulu. This is the mode for present tense for ana. I say, right? Another is anta taqulu. So see, alif is starting from the aqulu is starting from alif, and alif is part of anaitu. So this focus on this mold here. Ana aqulu, I say. Anta taqulu, you say. And these are both present tense. Anta taqulu, you say. Ana aqulu, I say. Anta taqulu, you say. Both are present tense. Now Quranic examples. La a'budu ma ta'budun. Is it a present tense? Is the sentence in a present tense or a past tense? It is in present tense. How do we know? Because la a'budu. A'budu is the mold of aqulu. So it doesn't say ana here, but the meaning say I don't. How do we know the meaning of la a'budu is I don't worship? It is because we know abudu is attached with ana. Why? Because it starts with alif, and the mode aqulu refers to I. So we know that la abudu means I don't worship. It's a present tense. I do not worship what tabudun, what you worship. Tabudun is not taqulu mold, but it's a mold for antum, which we covered in the last lesson. La abudu, I don't worship what you worship. How do we know abudu is I don't worship is referring to I? It's because it is the same mold. Abudu is the same mold as aqulu. So by default we know that because it's starting from a, ending with a a pesh here. So we know that abudu is the mold of aqulu. Ana aqulu la abudu. So abudu is a mold of aqulu. This tells us it's a present tense. Abada means worship. So abudu is the verb mold here, which is basically telling us A, it's a present tense, and B, it is basically associating itself with ana. Ana of course means I. I don't worship what you worship. This we have already covered in the last lesson. Taqiluna, taf'aluna, right? So ta'buduna, it's basically referring to antum. It is referring to antum, right? Easy. So I don't worship what ma means for what you worship. It's a very good example of present tense. La a'budu ma ta'buduna, Suratul Kafirun. Let's quickly analyze another example here. يقول يا ليتني قدمت لحياتي, Suratul Fajr. يقول. So this example, we have seen أنا أقول, أنت تقول, هو يقول. Again, all of these are present tense, and this is just giving us the mold. هو يقول. He says. Very commonly spoken in Arabic and in the Quran. Huwa yaqulu. So when it refers to he, the mold is changes from a, and for you it becomes ta, but for huwa, third person singular male, it becomes yaqulu. Yaqulu. So whenever in Quran refers to and says yaqulu, we know that it's a present tense. Why? Because it's starting from one of these letters. In this case, it's starting from ya. So yaqulu is a present tense, and because it's the mold here refers to he, we know that yaqulu, when it says yaqulu, it means he says, right? So he says, oh, I wish I had sent forth something good in my life, right? Suratul Fajr. But our focus here is yaqulu. Yaqulu means he says. Okay? So just a quick recap. When it says abudu, it's a mold of aqulu. It's present tense and it's referring to ana. Ta'budun, we have covered this before. It's referring to antum. And you worship, mean you worship. And then yaqulu means he says. Why? Because it's a mold. Huwa yaqulu, right? Okay. Now let's quickly cover another example for nahnu. Nahnu is we, right? If you recite Suratul Qasas, the beginning ayah will give you a lot of examples of this mold here. Nahnu naqulu, we say. So it is a little bit easier here because nahnu start with the letter noon, and all of the verbs is starting from noon. By default, you can tell it's referring to we. Nahnu naqussu, nahnu naqulu, right? Nuridu. A lot of examples in the Quran. You will see that in Suratul Qasas. But let's quickly have an example from Suratul Kahf actually. Can I write this? Because I think it's easy. We have covered this. And another example. We'll keep that lesson short. We're just practicing present and some of the future tense example here. Nahnu naqussu. Nahnu naqussu qasa. Qissa, storytelling. Nahnu naqussu alayka. Nahnu naqussu alayka naba'ahum bil haqq. Naba'ahum bil haqq. It's Allah telling us the story of the youth of the cave of Kahf, right? Nahnu naqussu. Focus here. Nahnu naqussu. Nahnu naqussu. Nahnu naqulu. Present tense. We know why it is present tense because it's starting with the letter noon, right? And we know that anaitu is the mold. So not the mold, sorry. Anaitu is the key through which you can tell whether it's a present tense or a past tense. Is it starting from alif? No. Is it starting from noon? Yes. So the mold is nahnu naqussu. So Allah, or generally in Arabic, when we don't see the doer, the person or the pronoun, but just by looking at the verb, you know who is doing the action. In that case, we is just right there, so we know it's we. Even if we was not there, it's just the word naqussu, we know that it means we say, because of the mold here, because of the nahnu naqulu mold here. Nahnu means we, naqulu is the mold, it's a present tense, and because it's starting from the letter noon, it means it is referring to we. So nahnu naqussu, we tell the story to you, right? I'm not going into the details of the whole thing, but nahnu naqussu, we know that it's a present tense. Allah is telling us the story, right? So now we have covered ana aqulu, huwa yaqulu, nahnu naqulu, and we have covered antum ta'lamuna or hum ya'lamuna. We have covered these examples so far. We have also covered in the last lesson kalla sawfa ta'lamuna thumma kalla sawfa ta'lamun. So there we were discussing that if you just add the letter sawfa, it becomes future tense. So just you add sawfa, the word sawfa, with the present tense, and it becomes